Cannibal Holocaust. This is an interesting one. This is one of the original found footage movies, so should be a fun one. Cannibal Holocaust was released in 1981, directed by Ruggero Deodato, and it lives up to its notoriety. This is considered the godfather of found footage. Blair Witch Project and Paranormal Activity successfully commercialize found footage, but they do it in a way where it feels like you're viewing it through a camcorder. Whereas I really like the approach to this movie because they film everything as it's like a news footage documentary. Even though, yes, you can tell it's not a big budget movie, there's a legit look to this movie that reflects what old news footage looks like in a documentary like this. This film, by all accounts, is disturbing and gruesome as I'm not even going to show a lot of footage from this because a lot of this film is so graphic and explicit. It's actually quite astounding and impressive. Impalements, castration,
Sexual violence.
severed limbs, cannibalism, and gruesome murders are all on the menu for this movie. Unfortunately, there is also real life animal cruelty in this movie, which is very hard to watch knowing what happens, but some scenes are shocking knowing what they do is real to animals. So, what's this about? The first half is about a news crew in the Amazon searching for some documentary people who disappeared. They realize they're dead by the hands of a brutal, cannibalistic indigenous tribe, but they are able to recover their footage. The second half is the news people back in New York City watching the news footage and seeing all the heinous shit that went down with the documentary people. And they want to make all this footage into a sensational documentary for TV. This film could be seen as a critique on sensationalism in the media, especially in the news in countries outside the US. They bring up the fact that the news can stage events to make things look a lot worse than it is to entertain audiences. In my opinion, this film actually explores that pretty well. Whenever the Americans antagonize a tribe, it severely backfires on them as well. When you see what happens to the dead documentarians, it is absolutely gruesome and disturbing, but when you see what they did to lead up to that moment, they kind of deserved it for antagonizing them and doing absolutely horrible things for the sake of good footage. This film premiered in Italy and it was so shocking the director was arrested because they thought it was an actual snuff film, meaning all the human deaths were real. So he had to prove to them that that wasn't the case and he showed pictures of the cast and crew shooting the film. Cannibal Holocaust inspired a whole new perspective on horror, with this specific film being one of the most effective uses of that technique to this day. This gritty, raw nature just cannot be replicated for better and for worse. I really like the score of this movie. The theme that plays is sort of soothing and relaxing, and it's usually played when wild shit is going on. Overall, there's a part of me that absolutely admires the filmmaking here that requires a lot of commitment from everyone involved to make something that disturbs you to the bone. The animal cruelty is not okay and never will be okay, but unfortunately, that happened a lot on movie sets back then. This movie doesn't even have a rating, but it would probably be NC-17. This won't be a film that I put on in the background like Halloween or Friday the 13th, but it accomplishes something that's still effective over 40 years later. This is horror to the extreme, and it's pretty fitting that this is the final film out of the half for 13 nights, so I'll give it 8 jack-o'-lanterns out of 10.
Guys, thank you so much for watching the third 13 Nights of Halloween. I can't believe this is the third year I'm doing this. I started this in 2020 when there wasn't much to do. And yeah, I just want to keep doing this. I want to pick 13 random horror movies out of a hat and see what I talk about each year. I think this will be a fun thing to do to keep me on my feet, keep me on my toes, creatively. The footage that I used for my intros and outros were from my Universal Horror Nights trip in Orlando. I went there. The haunted houses were awesome. I absolutely, recommend it to any horror fan or any just Halloween enthusiast. Those haunted houses are awesome. And yeah, it's so cool. The Weekend's haunted house was amazing. The Halloween haunted house, awesome. The way they recreated those sets and everything. The Blumhouse house with the Black Phone and Freaky, So cool. It was so cool to see the Freaky House, especially that it's a movie I did this year. That was pretty cool. But yeah, I had a lot of fun doing that, and I thought, hey, why don't I get some B-roll from my trip there and use it for this year? And I thought it was a good idea for the most part. What else? It's a really fun time in horror movies right now. This year alone, I've seen Halloween Ends, Barbarian, Smile, and Terrifier 2. And, horror I feel like is like the one last uncorrupted genre because it's the only genre that you can make on a pretty reasonable budget and still get people to turn out for it. You don't need like huge stars in a horror movie. You kind of just need a cool original idea and that people can get excited about and people watch. Even something like Terrifier 2, a movie that is not for everyone and is violent as all hell. It it was made on a $250,000 budget, and a lot of it was crowdfunded, and it has made over $6 million. That's amazing, and yeah, I hope horror can still be uh, creative and excited in these years to come. I had a lot of fun watching these horror movies. I've had pretty unique horror movies this year. Um, Found footage movies, uh, Guillermo del Toro movies, um, the Ju-on, The Grudge. It was a lot of fun watching these horror movies this year, and I can't wait to do it again next year. Guys, thank you so much for watching again, and I'll see you guys soon. Happy Halloween, guys. Stay spooky.